Okay, so here's 10 things that you can use to make a better video game over the years if you're somebody who's inspiring to be a game designer. I made a video like this before in the past, but I'm going to go back to it again and kind of revise a couple things. So anyways, so number one, what you can do in a video game in the industry is make sure you have a lot of customizations. A lot of people usually like stuff that gives them a reason to keep coming back. You know, nostalgia, calmness, or just some kind of customizations, something that, wide variety of choices. And I mean, granted, yes, it can also be pretty hard to design for, but, it kind of leads me to the next point I want to make. And that'd be number two is, the length of the game. If you can make a really long game, despite what people will say, I feel like it'll be like a really good game because people don't usually, I mean, you think about it, if you make a really short game, then people kind of feel disappointed because they might have enjoyed it. And I mean, if you're putting that much effort into a game that's going to be telling a story, make it fairly long. Drag it out for as long as you can, but like make sure it doesn't contradict certain things, like like introduce different characters and how they're all related somehow, or even theories behind it. Good examples of like games that did it were like Fire Emblem, for example, where like you had multiple characters you could play as. They all had different classes, different stats, different attacks, different, like it made you really like it was based on chess basically, but at the same time that's what made Fire Emblem successful from Intelligent Systems, from Nintendo. you know, because over the years people just kind of fell in love with the series, and it still sticks around to this day, so that's why a lot of people still play it. But anyways, another three would be like the music. A lot of people love music. If you find a really talented musician, give them a chance or her a chance, because you never know, they might actually come up with something that's so relatable that the music might actually what keeps the game in mind. I'll give you an example. Like Koji Kondo, for example, from Nintendo, with the Zelda themes and what else was it? And like when he did with Mario, one of the major reasons a lot of people love the Mario trilogy outside of the story and gameplays, they enjoyed like the musical scores. It really made the world of Mario feel alive in the sense that you can kind of see like I'll give you an example. Like take like Mario Kart Double Dash. Like I always loved the main title theme song because it made you feel like you were going on an adventure and you were competing with other people, hence the racing games. But you had like these really creative tracks all throughout the whole Mushroom Kingdom and the world of Mario, and it really made you wonder how Shigeru Miyamoto really came up with the concept of what Mario was. And then we see all these spin-off series, no pun intended, but it's interesting though. It's when Nintendo does something right, and that's why a lot of people love Nintendo, because they do like the stuff they come up with. And that's what it is all about. It's about the games, it's about the gameplay, and I mean, is it worth the money? It's definitely the question people should ask themselves when they're gonna, if you want to go out and spend it on a physical or digital copy, or if you get it through other means, or if you're lucky enough you get it free from somebody, who knows. I've gotten some pretty good deals from people every now and again, but you never know though. Anyways, number four could be balanced difficulty. Not saying people don't like a challenge, and not every game has to be like like kicking you down when you feel like you'll never beat it, but at the same time, though, people do like a challenge every once in a while, or maybe give people, again, the customization of difficulty settings, maybe play the game, just see what it's about, relax, and then, but at the same time, though, if you really want to if you're really feeling lucky or feeling suicidal enough, you just do, like, you make up your own challenges, like these, it gives people a reason to play the game again, might piss some people off, but you never know, though, right? Anyways, I mean, good example, Star Ocean 2's final boss is optional form. I mean, it's not impossible to beat it, but yeah, good luck with that. Hardest boss I've ever seen. But I've done it, though, a couple times. Another good example could be like, make sure, and here's another one, when you design your games, don't rely on gimmicks. Rely on, creative and balanced material as well, as far as, like, don't give the AI, like, unbalanced procedures, because a game where the AI can just blatantly cheat even if a single mistake's made or the physics engine's off, but the AI has a different physics engine, apply the same physics to the AI. Don't don't allow the AI to be able to cheat, but like, you know, you can't though, you know what I mean? If it's understandable, like if he's got like a signature move that only he can use, yeah, that's understandable. But you know, but if it's like, you know, you're like in a racing game where the enemies are on a line system, they go faster than they should, or they have infinite health, or they go flying off the track and they should die when they just go right back on it. I mean, you know, or like in Mario Kart, where like the original Mario Kart, you know, you'll shoot them with a green shell or a red shell, and at the last second, it's like they're task running the whole thing, tool assisted speed run. They just jump immediately. It's like, really, like, come on, you know, stupid stuff like that, you know, the game just blatantly cheats, you know, because AI scripts are smart, they're not stupid. So you'd be surprised what you can get away with there. So make sure that, you know, you balance that out when you look at a game for what it is. Not just violence, but at the same time, you know, you could always add like some erotic romance, because I feel like a lot of games don't have enough of it. Because if you can add to the point where the game actually, because believe it or not, sex sells, you know. Yeah, granted, you know, you have to know your audience too, but, you know. But don't be afraid to, you know, maybe incorporate some sort of romantic system in a lot of games, because if you do, then, you know, it adds more of an interesting twist to the game. You know, like kind of like a yin and yang effect. You know, it's easy to get away with a lot of violence, and you know, but sometimes it's always nice to just throw something else in there. You know, what's the opposite of violence? Love, right? Hatred versus love. So I don't see anything wrong with that. You know, that's always a, you know, when done correctly, you know, it makes you really wonder how many other possible romantic choices are there, you know, with the characters. It really makes them feel alive or relatable, you know, in a lot of aspects. And it really makes people, like, if you think about it, you know, it doesn't have to be the same cliche that, you know, we've been told where the hero always gets the girl, or the, you know what I mean? It could just be, you know, it reminds people that, yeah, you know, people can still fall in love and find a compatible, you know, it gives people, it can make people smile in a way, you know, that they don't have to feel like, you know, that true love is dead in a way. You can remind yourself that, you know, there are people out there that could still, you know, fall in love and trust each other at one point and live their lives together, working together. All right, and controls. Always make sure your controls work very good, because if you can get a control that actually works very good, then, you know, you won't have to keep blaming the game for the mistakes then. It's either the player or the game, but sometimes it's hard to tell, you know. Maybe it's the game cheating, maybe it's just my bad luck, or maybe it's just me. I don't know. Sometimes I can't tell. You know, I mean, some games, like, I'll give you an example, like F-Zero, for example. Very good example. Controls are solid, but sometimes it feels like when you crash to a certain wall, you spin out of control when you really shouldn't. You know, like it's like Deathwind 2 and Firefield, for example. You know, those 180 hairpins that you go across in the original one, the very first one you can think of for the Super Nintendo. And what's really interesting is, you know, that game was the very first Super Nintendo game that was ever made, and some of those things, some of the things in that game actually weren't finished. So like the physics, like you could crash into a straight line and you'd somehow burn out somehow, even though you're not like doing wheelie spin outs. It's weird. The wind. This isn't before you even consider the wind velocity too taking effect in the game. But I've noticed that if you play certain games, make sure the physics engine matches what it's supposed to do. You know, I mean, and again, I know programming isn't always easy, but again, you know, test your stuff out, make sure it works, keep a lot of mental notes. Huge plot twists is another one, because, you know, like I'll give you an example, like Deus Ex: The Conspiracy, the one that I think of. You know, you work for a company called UNACO at the very beginning. Your brother Paul is actually, and there's all this foreshadowing that, you know, he's not as trustworthy as he should have been, but he really wasn't the bad guy. You know, they made him out to be, and then you come to find out the people you were working for were the bad guys, and you're actually working for a corrupt, you know, the people that were actually responsible for the whole thing was the same people that you were supposed to trust at the very beginning of the game, who weren't the good guys, they were the bad guys. So, and you see what a plot twist that turns out to be. So yeah, you know, huge plot twists that can also work in, you know, basically anything that, you know, you can think of. Another good example is unlockables and multiple endings. I've learned, I'll give you a good example, perfect example, Summon Night. Every single character that's playable in that game has somewhat of an ending. and it's a game that kind of copied what Fire Emblem did, and it did it even better. And there's another series I'm playing through right now. I can't say as far as the endings go because I don't know how many there are, but it's like I like how the concept of it. It's called Tears of Tiara. It's on the PSP. They re-released it in English. There's 2 games that I know of. I don't know if there's any more after that. If you're a Fire Emblem fan, check it out. There's definitely, games that are like a visual novel where like they'll tell you a certain part of the story and then you play like up until a certain point, like, do the battle. Fire Emblem did the same thing. You go to a different chapter, they give you a prologue to the chapter, you beat the chapter, you play the chapter, you get the ending of it, like you seize the area, what's going on next, what do we do now, and then you go to the next chapter, they give you more story, you play the chapter, it ends, all the way up until the game ends. And basically it was all about, trying to figure out, like, what to do next. How do we, like, as you're reading the story, you're introduced to the characters are living their lives, the climax happens, they try to, or the problem's introduced, they find a way to solve the problem, and then there's the epilogue after it's all taken care of. A good example could be like how the way they wrote, like Harry Potter, for example, the world of Hogwarts, you went to this magical castle, like I'll give it to you just straight. Harry Potter, we learned that, he's a boy that wanted to learn about magic and all that, ends up hearing about the magical world of Hogwarts and its lost history, is interested, ends up going to it, meets a lot of people, and over the years, he just keeps uncovering the secrets of it, as well as and then eventually some of those secrets come back in the present and into the future. They deal with it, like Tom Riddle, for example. And then after it ends, they have an epilogue over the years, again, over the course of the books, but the books were, at the time, the reason why so many people like the series as well as the movies is because a lot of people like what they did with the adaptations of it. They brought something to life. They got a lot of people to go back to it. And it's just, you can see that there was an effort made to make something, not just to make money off of it, but to, they wanted to give somebody something. Somebody wanted to bring this to life, and they tried the best they could to make it realistic based on the words they were given. And, and it's you'd be surprised what people can do. Even I'm at a loss for words, that's why I'm stuttering. Because, even I enjoyed the series so much. I went back and read the books multiple times to the point where it's like, what else did I miss in those books that, and then you find out, like, even books and movies always have, like, their differences and all that. If, that's something you probably didn't know, believe it or not. Even Japanese mangas do the same thing. We found this out with One Piece and Dragon Ball Z, as long as a series they are, there's certain things that they might have skipped in the, because of the total volumes that were released versus how many episodes were made, and maybe they actually explained it better in like a previous episode, so maybe the details are all there, but like in a different way though. And speaking of Dragon Ball Z, it's always interesting how, like, other characters inspire other characters. Like Lord Beerus, for example, is actually supposed to be like reminiscing of Mewtwo of Dragon Ball Z, or but what's even crazier is, what even inspired Dragon Ball Z was, like, the original 1988, Dragon Ball was inspired by the Journey to the West, which was, like, the 4 main characters were actually, some of the 4 main characters in Dragon Ball Z were actually based on characters in a Chinese movie. It's crazy, but it's like, Asian cultures inspiring other Asian cultures. It's crazy. Or even One Piece, what inspired One Piece, Vicky the Viking. It was a 1974 German television show. I'm trying to remember 100%, but it's like, you just see like somebody had an idea and you can kind of see the similar results, like you had Luffy the pirate, Luffy the, and they all went on an adventure, and that's what the Vikings did. But in their own way, they built ships, they raided places, they had their own belief, but they had like that sense of adventure in their own hearts and all that, trying to see it's out there and bury their loot somewhere. It was interesting, like, how people transitioned over the years, different cultures, different beliefs, and even if you didn't agree with them, look at what they got away with. It's nuts. And probably one of the most important things, unlockables. Yeah, we could throw this under customizations too, but let's kind of give this its own category. All right, people like playing games because of rewards. I'm not just talking about loot boxes, but I'm talking about like cosmetic material. Let me tell you something. If you're somebody who wants to use like loot boxes and all that, or You know, don't turn it into like a form of like rigged gambling. You know, reward people with stuff they don't have yet. Always use material you don't have and then go from there, you know. And if you want like free material, because again, you know, if you want people to play your games and to make money, basically, you know, the more stuff you put in your games over the years, I mean, yeah, nothing's free, but you know, give people something to get their money's worth. You know, if you want to charge people $60 for a game, you know, it better be like one of the greatest things that they've invested in, you know, so that way they feel like, you know, so if a sequel ends up becoming apparent, you know, they'll be willing to spend their money happily because they weren't disappointed the first time. So I feel like, you know, or even make online games too. That's another one. But again, do it correctly though. You know, single player games are pretty cool too. Multiplayer games are cool too, you know, as long as people don't cheat and, you know, but again, you know, you don't have to play with just random people. You can play with your friends and they don't cheat, you know. Let's just be honest. But it is interesting though, like, you know, what people can do when they don't limit themselves. No limitations. If you can figure out what you want, draw yourself and brainstorm ideas and go for it. I guarantee you'll make something great if you don't limit yourself. And another one, just, you know, again, online games, or, you know, try to make like variety of different games. If you're somebody who's trying to be a game designer, you know, anything's possible. I mean, you know, you just need to know your audience. You know, online games are pretty cool too because, you know, you can play with friends and all that. But again, if you can make a game that's even better than most AAA title games, or they don't keep pissing off their fan base, then people won't leave. They'll keep coming back. You know, if people don't do that, and again, it's the publishers, it's not really the game designers, because they're the ones that have the control over the funding, so therefore it's their project, not the game designers. Kind of ironic how that works, but that's how it is in the world of business. Owners take full responsibility, but at the same time, though, they're going to blame the people that made it, even though they're the ones that were told to do it. So not their decision. But anyways, I mean, if they value their job. But anyways, yeah, online games or visual novels or single player games, multiplayer games, JRPGs, Western RPGs, single, like, turn-based. I mean, whatever game you think comes to mind, you know, go wild, have fun with it. You know, yeah, coding and programming isn't easy, but if you're one of those people that's fortunate enough to be able to understand it even better than I do, I praise you. I really do, because, you know, I've been a translator, but I could never figure out how to, like, you know, uncompress like certain tools and all that to be able to like make like patches and whatnot. And I mean, you know, but it's like anybody who understands how to write code and especially how to do it correctly, let me tell you something, you're a genius, and you should definitely specialize in that field, because you could do great things. I believe in you. I really do. You know, so, but yeah, this is just kind of like a template to, like, you know, if you're somebody who's like looking for some ideas, like what to look for, here's at least 10 ideas you can look into that could very well, you know, maybe hopefully make your career like a little bit better, you know, especially if you're working with people, and especially teamwork, you know, same logic applies, you know, just, you know, agree on stuff, don't argue, you know, just work together. And again, teamwork solves problems, not arguments. You know, again, like G.I. Joe, Flint from G.I. Joe always used to say, you know, knowing is only half the battle. So again, you know, if you like this video, comment, rate, subscribe, favorite, share it, ring the bell, you know, because YouTube likes to demote people apparently. And I got a Patreon if you want to support me, but you don't have to. You know, if you have any requests, please let me know. I'll make a video about it. And if you are having a great day, I hope you continue to have a great day, and thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take it easy.